Alright guys, here's another question that I get. I don't get it a lot, but it's definitely worth noting. Definitely would like to give you a little bit of advice on it. Some guys are concerned that if they start DJing, especially in clubs, will it damage your hearing? Well, it's a tough question to answer because, I don't know if it's going to damage your hearing. Can it damage your hearing? Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, technically, any prolonged exposure to music or any kind of a loud sound, of course, can damage your hearing. Some people go deaf all on their own with no exposure, so you never really exactly know. There are some things that you can do, and some things to take note of that can certainly help prevent that. Um, if you're really concerned, I've actually been told there's actually a pill out on the market now. I believe it's called NAC. Basically, the military, most specifically the Navy, I believe, started using this pill because they were around like explosions or bomb blasts, and a lot of guys were complaining that they had tinnitus, which is a constant ringing of the ear. And they took this pill, and apparently it's been scientifically proven that the pill it does something when you take it, and it kind of like, I don't know exactly how it works, but it kind of like partially closes off your eardrum, so your exposure to the sound is not as severe. Apparently, there are a lot of guys in rock bands now that are taking this, and guys in the military have been taking it for years. You may want to think about something like that. I'm not advocating any kind of drug use or medicine use here or anything like that. So make sure you definitely look into it, and check it out thoroughly before you determine if something like that might be something you'd want to take, if especially you're DJing in clubs and you're exposed to sound very loud at long periods of time. One thing I will say, however, is from what I'm told, it is mostly high-pitched sounds that will damage your hearing far more than low sounds. It has something to do with the eardrums, thing in your ear. And most of the time in club situations, you're not only are you behind the speakers, most of the time, usually the booth is kind of isolated or it's set apart. You're usually either behind the speakers or the speakers are kind of like around you, but not aimed right at you in a 360 of the club. So you got that to your advantage. You're actually, in reality, in that kind of a situation, you're probably exposed to less sound than the average club goer, which is pretty impressive. The main things you got to watch out for, the biggest one is probably headphone volume. Some of these new DJ headphones, and even some of the older ones, can get very loud, very loud. So if and that's completely within your control to make sure that your headphone volume stays at a reasonable level, but not, excessive, where it hits so hard the whole thing rocks on your head. I mean, you need enough to hear it, but you don't need enough to feel it. Sometimes that can be a little sketchy in a club because you got to make sure it's loud enough to hear over the house speakers, which can be mighty loud if you're playing in a larger club. The other big one is the monitors, the house monitors, which also is somewhat within your control. I mean, you're going to be at the mixer. You're going to be right next to the speaker, so you should be able to control the volume of that, through the mixer. So, but that's aimed usually right at your head, usually right to the left, or right to the right, or right to the left. But usually that's loud as well. But I would say in general, you're more susceptible than somebody that is in a band. I would say bands are probably even worse. A lot of guys at my full-time job say I talk loud, so perhaps I am partially deaf. It's nothing I've really noticed a whole lot, but there are some things that go along with a job, and you take risks every day of your life. So yeah, there is going to be a risk that you will lose your hearing after some point in time. I've been DJing for almost 11 years now, so I've done it for quite some time. So if someone was going to get hearing loss or hearing damage, I'm probably pretty susceptible to that. But anyway, I hope that addresses your question. I hope I tried to answer it as honestly as possible. Oh, one more thing. People ask me, well, can I use earplugs? Well, no, because you need to hear through your ears. So you don't want to block out all the sound. I guess you could use earplugs, but I would think that using the headphones and queuing up the next track, I would think it would be inaccurate because of the ratio of the volume between the headphones and the house speaker. It might cause you to crank the volume up louder than necessary. You may even have club goers complain because they're hearing it the way it should sound, not as opposed to the muted sound from your earplugs. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess you could wear them, but it's going to change the accuracy of what you're hearing from what they're hearing, which could be a big deal depending on the club. Okay, but I hope that answers the question as honest as I can really put it. Okay, thanks.